Whether you're fresh out of college or climbing the corporate ladder, there's something you need to know. Not all questions are created equal. Asking the wrong thing can totally derail your chances, even if everything else goes well. As an HR director, over the years, I've sat through hundreds, if not thousands of interviews. I've heard candidates ask things that made me instantly rethink whether they were the right fit. So in this video, I'm breaking down 10 common questions you should never ask during a job interview, why they're problematic, and most importantly, what you can ask instead to sound smart, thoughtful, and prepared. Let's dive in. Question number 1. What is your company culture like? Okay, let me tell you, this is one of the most common questions I get from candidates. And don't get me wrong, wanting to understand company culture is totally valid. But the way this question is usually asked, it's just too vague. It's kind of like going on a first date with someone and asking, so tell me, what kind of person are you? I mean, where do you even begin, right? The person might give you a generic answer like, I'm chill, or I work hard, and you still have no idea what they're actually like. Same thing happens in interviews. When someone asks me, what is your company culture? I know they probably have something specific they're trying to find out. Maybe they want to know if the company is open-minded, if employees have a voice, if they will be micromanaged, if people work crazy hours. But if they just throw out that blanket question, they're unlikely to get the answers they're really looking for. To get a more useful answer, try asking something more specific. Tailor your questions to the part of culture that matters most to you. For example, if you care about inclusion and belonging, you can ask, does the company have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy? What progress have you made in that area? Or if you're concerned about autonomy, maybe you can ask, how much decision-making power do individual team members typically have in their role? These types of questions show that you know what you care about and you're thoughtful about where you want to work. And guess what? That leaves a great impression. Question number 2. Can you tell me about the day-to-day responsibilities of this job? Okay, I totally get why people ask this, but let me be real with you. In most cases, the day-to-day responsibilities are usually already right there in the job description. So when a candidate asked me this, especially early in the interview, it immediately makes me wonder, wait, it seems like they didn't prepare. And that's not a good look, especially if it's a competitive role. It's kind of like showing up to a restaurant, handing the waiter the menu back and saying, so what do you guys serve here? It tells me you haven't even glanced at the basics. Now, if you're genuinely curious about what doing the job well looks like, not just what's written in the bullets, you can totally ask. You just need to reframe it in a smarter, more thoughtful way. Here are 2 great options. First, you can ask, what are the top priorities for this role in the first 3 to 6 months? This shows me you are thinking ahead and already visualizing what success looks like early on. You're not just interested in tasks, you're thinking about impact. Second way to ask is that, can you share an example of a recent project someone in this role worked on? Now, this question gives you a peek behind the curtain. You will learn what the actual work feels like, not just a generic list of duties. It also helps you spot whether the work excites you or not. So remember, it's not that you can't ask about the role. It's about asking it in a way that shows curiosity and preparation. That's the kind of candidate hiring managers remember. Question number 3. What does your company do? Or what is your company's mission statement? Asking this is basically like walking into someone's house and saying, so who are you anyway? This signals that you didn't bother to look up the most basic information before showing up. As an HR director, I've been on the receiving end of this more than a few times, and I try to keep a neutral face, but inside I'm thinking, they're not invested in this role. They probably applied to 50 jobs with a single click. The end of interview Q&A is your chance to impress the interviewer. Show them that you care, that you're curious, that you're already picturing yourself in this role. A better way is to check out the company's website, recent news, or social media, then ask a smart question based on what you found. This shows that you're informed and engaged. Here are a few great options. Try this one. I saw that your company just launched a new product line. How has that impacted the direction of your team? This shows that you're following the company's growth and want to understand how the role fits into the big picture. Another one, I read your recent blog post about expanding into international market. How does that align with your mission? Boom. Now you are connecting real events with the company's core purpose. So next time, skip the stuff that's on the homepage. Go deeper. Be curious. It's a simple way to stand out from the crowd. And trust me, most candidates won't do it. Question number 4. What's the work-life balance like? Okay, this one is tricky. I get it. Work-life balance is incredibly important. As someone who's worked long nights, moved offices, worked with teams across time zones, and raised a child, I know firsthand how much balance matters. But here's the key. Asking about work-life balance too early in the interview process can backfire. It's kind of like showing up to a dinner party and immediately asking, so when do we eat dessert? Sure, dessert might be the highlight, but if that's your first question, it makes people wonder if you're even interested in the rest of the meal. When candidates ask me this question right off the bat, it sometimes sends the message they care more about what they get than what they bring to the table. That doesn't mean you can't care about balance. You should. It just means be strategic in how and when you ask. While if you're early in the interview process, in the first or second round, you can try to focus your questions on the work itself, responsibilities, success metrics, or collaboration styles. Show that you're all in on contributing. Then, if you want insight into balance, here are some subtler, smarter ways to get the same information. For example, you can ask, how does your team typically structure their day? This gives you clues about flexibility, start and end time, and how people pace their workload. And then you can ask, what is your team's approach to working after hours or on weekends, especially during busy seasons? Now you're asking about expectations without sounding like you're trying to dodge work. And of course, as you move further along in the interview process or once you've received an offer, you can absolutely ask more directly about balance, PTO, or flexibility. That's the time to negotiate and align values. But remember, your questions say a lot about your priorities. So when you're still getting to know each other, lead with curiosity, not caution. Question number 5. How do I compare to other candidates? Wow, this one can feel really tempting, right? You've made it through the interview, you're feeling great, and you really want to know where you stand. But here's the truth. Asking this question puts your interviewer in a very awkward position. I remember one time I interviewed a candidate who was very close to being hired. She was sharp, well prepared, and very confident. But at the very end of our chat, she asked me this question. And I was a bit taken aback. I had no way to answer that honestly in the moment without being unfair to other applicants or to her. So I gave her a polite, generic response like, we're still in the process and have a few more people to meet. But it changed the energy of that conversation. Here's the problem with this question. First, it puts the interviewer on the spot. Second, it comes off as insecure or overly competitive. And third, it doesn't actually give you helpful feedback. But don't worry, there's a much better way to get insight into how you're doing. You can ask this instead. Do you have any concerns about my fit for this role that I could address before we wrap up? This shows that you're confident and open to feedback. It invites honesty and shows maturity. And most importantly, it gives you a chance to clear up any doubts right then and there. You can also ask this. Is there anything in my background or experience that you would like me to elaborate on? Or, based on our conversation, do you feel that I'm aligned with what you're looking for in this role? These questions keeps the focus on you and the role, not other candidates. And they give your interviewer the opportunity to either reassure you or help you improve. Remember, interviews aren't just about impressing someone. They're also about building a professional connection. And part of that is knowing when to lean in and when to hold back. Question number 6. How soon can I get promoted? Okay, I get it. You're ambitious. You want to grow, take on new challenges, and climb the ladder. And that's great. Companies want people who are driven. But when you ask this specific question too early in the process, it can send the wrong message. It makes it seem like you're not actually that interested in this role. You're already mentally skipping ahead to the next one. It's a little like joining a new gym and immediately asking, so how soon do I get to be a personal trainer when you haven't even started your first workout yet? I've had candidates ask me this in interviews, and while I understood their intent, it often made me wonder, will they stay committed to this role if it takes a little bit longer than expected to advance? And are they here to contribute and learn or just to fast track themselves out of this position? Here's the thing. Asking about career growth is smart. You should care about your long-term future with the company. But it's all in the framing. You can ask this way instead. What do career growth opportunities typically look like for someone in this role? This is a thoughtful way to ask about advancement while still showing that you're focused on learning, contributing, and thriving in the position you are actually applying for. You can also try this. What does success look like in this role, and how is it typically rewarded or recognized? Or are there any examples of team members who've grown within the company? I would love to hear about their path. These type of questions show that you're not just looking for a quick promotion. You're invested in learning the ropes, building value, and growing with the company. When you frame it this way, you will come across as strategic, grounded, and growth-oriented. These are the things every great hiring manager is looking for. Question number 7. How strict are you about start times, or can I leave early on Fridays? Look, you might have a long commute, or you're just trying to make sure this job fits into your life in a sustainable way. That's fair. But when you ask a question like this right in the interview, it can raise a red flag. To the interviewer, it might sound like you're already thinking about how to get out of work. It gives the impression that your focus is on minimizing your hours instead of maximizing your impact. Here's a better way to ask what you really want to know. How does your team typically approach flexibility in working hours? This is neutral, professional, and open-ended. It shows that you respect the company's time while also valuing work-life balance. Remember, it's not what you're asking, it's how you ask it. By showing that you care about being present and contributing while also exploring whether the role aligns with your needs, you come across as both thoughtful and professional. Question number 8. How old is your team? This might seem like a harmless curiosity. Maybe you're just trying to get a feel for the team dynamics or wondering if you will fit in culturally. But here's the thing. Asking about age directly in an interview can be legally sensitive and easily misinterpreted. In many countries, including in the US, age is a protected category under employment law. That means hiring decisions can't legally be influenced by age, and interviewers have to be cautious not to engage in any conversation that can imply otherwise. I've seen this happen before. Candidates asking things like, is the team mostly fresh grads or more experienced people? Am I going to be the youngest or oldest person in the room? They're often trying to figure out if they will relate to their teammates or fit into the culture, but it's still not the right approach. These are things best explored indirectly. So what should you ask instead? Try one of these thoughtful alternatives. How would you describe the working style of the team? This gives you insight into whether the team is fast-paced, process-driven, creative, collaborative, regardless of age. Or you can ask this. What type of backgrounds and experiences do team members bring to the table? This opens the door to learning about diversity, not just in age, but in career path, industries, and skill sets. Question number 9. Do you drug test or do you check criminal backgrounds? These questions can raise unnecessary concerns right off the bat. You might just be trying to prepare for what's ahead, but asking these kind of questions too early can make interviewers uncomfortable or even suspicious. Even if you're just trying to understand the process, questions like this can send the wrong message. If you do have a specific concern, like a medical condition or past history that you are legally required to disclose, bring it up later in the process, ideally after a conditional offer has been made. That's the appropriate time to have a private and respectful conversation. But early on during the interviews, you can frame it in a broader and more professional way. For example, could you please walk me through the pre-employment and onboarding process? Or, are there any checks or requirements that I should be aware of before starting? This gives the interviewer the opportunity to share details about background checks, drug tests, and any other formalities without putting you in an awkward position or raising eyebrows unnecessarily. Question number 10. Why should I work here instead of somewhere else? This one can come across a little cocky, even if you didn't mean it that way. It sounds like that you are putting the company on the spot to sell you, rather than showing genuine curiosity. It's kind of like saying, so what's in it for me, before even building a connection. I once had a candidate ask me this at the end of an otherwise solid interview. I could tell they wanted to understand what made us special, but the phrasing put me on the defensive. Instead, you can show curiosity and openness by asking this way. What do you personally enjoy most about working here? Or this way. What makes people stay long-term here? These questions feel much more genuine, and they still give you great insight into what makes the company stand out. So here's the takeaway. Asking smart, thoughtful questions shows that you're prepared and really interested in the job. It helps you understand the role and the company better while also leaving a lasting positive impression on the interviewer. Which question do you think is the most important to avoid? Drop a comment below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on acing interviews and boosting your career. See you in my next video.